Welcome to Show Me Your Moves, hosted the 2026 theme, plus one EXP. I was challenged to do this introduction. They're a funny little brand that connects people who love games with designers who love people. Uh, um, a weird little alchemy. Here we go. Reporting live from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Kind of a war zone these days. Was that it? Is that
I'd
what you
say
say
you
every
say
time?
your name and who you are.
I'm Aaron King. Good night and good luck.
Good luck. I mean, in the chat, Signal Station says works for me. Take all my money.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's excellent. It was also very good and had all of the important parts of it that you with you having it. Sarah reads the script every time.
Oh,
I have a weird brain that traps that in its just muscle memory at this point in time. I've done my 10,000 hours of opening the show. Hey, everybody, I'm Tony Vicinda, Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP. Show Me Your Moves is part of our year-long theme of making hard moves. It's our exploration of Powered by the Apocalypse design through the lens of some of our favorite PbtA designers. It's also kind of a look at what they are doing in their lives to make hard moves, to be intentional, to live life in a way they're excited about. And I am super excited tonight to have Adam Vass with us. Adam, you signed up to do this last minute all month long. We were like, Ray and Johnny will be here at the end of the month. Ray is having some medical issues. Adam, we were super excited to have on. But one of the reasons I'm really excited to have you is you also designed the visual look of this year also too. And it turned out really beautifully, and I'm really super grateful for your artistic vision and just helping a little weird thing we wanted to do all year long come alive. And so we're super excited to have you here with us tonight to talk about art, game design, music, Lost, the TV show, which I watched all of again today, and other things that you get excited about. For folks who aren't familiar with you, why don't you tell people a little about who you are, what you do, and where they can find you online?
I'm Adam Vass. I make role-playing games and branch out from there, I guess. Mostly horror games and lately games about freaks and weirdos and losers and scumbags. You can find my games at worldchamp.io.
Awesome. And Games in a Bunker out there is a perfect reminder to replace a reorder to World Champ Game Co. Games in a Bunker, one of our favorite game stores to work with. Glenn's also a great creator, also too, and just had Demon Eater that is coming out. I believe the second printing of it. So super excited to see that get out into the world also too. But Adam, you owe us a kickback on that order also too. Now, again, it's a little bit of serendipity. We were just talking right before we went live. You're about to go out of town on tour. You are a musician. You're a visual artist. You're a games designer. Again, there are a lot of different things that you do that it's absolutely a joy to get to sit down and talk to you about. We've had you on before to talk a little bit about your creative process. People can kind of go back and look at that stream if they want to on the channel. But as part of Show Me Your Moves this year, we want to specifically kind of dive in to Powered by the Apocalypse design, some of the work that you've done. I know that Aaron and I are both really excited to kind of talk to you about Babes in the Wood, which is the first game of I got your little like postcard set was the first thing of yours I backed, but Babes in the Wood is the first book of yours that I ever received in the mail, and from the get go, I got the square copy wrapped in a beautiful bandana because I got the all in everything backing of it. But it's a tremendous PbtA game. It really makes everything very succinct, very clear. Can you give us just kind of the elevator pitch for Babes in the Wood, and then Aaron and I are just going to start pelting you with questions that you may or may not know the answers to.
Babes in the Wood is a all ages game about kids and sentient toys and animals that are wandering through a winding forest on Halloween night, and they have to forge friendships and help people with their problems and face their fears in order to get out of the forest and somehow get back to their normal life. It's inspired by a lot of like surrealist young adult fiction, like specifically the cartoon Over the Garden Wall, but also Adventure Time, Alice in Wonderland, kind of other kids in strange place fiction.
Yeah, love it. Aaron, what are some of the things that you love about Babes in the Wood? Like why for I know like for me why I really was drawn to it when I originally saw it, and as I was rereading through it today, get reminded of it. What is one of the reasons you were excited to talk to Adam about Babes in the Wood?
There's a bunch of reasons. One is that it's like clearly an Adam Vass game, but it's also a collaborative project, which I think Adam is really good at doing. Like there's excellent art by Kim Wynn. There are poems by Seb Pines. It's just a whole community package and in a game about a bunch of weirdos banding together and finding and building and solving community problems. It's really neat to have these other influences brought in. The other thing I like is that the GM is a character, a specific character, the Fiend. Is that right?
In the
Um,
GM-less version of it, it's kind of the Fiend is sort of like this shared role that um they all take to supplant like the missing narrator. The narrator in like a standard game is sort of just a standard GM that also inhabits the Fiend, I guess. They're in a way they're sort of like, yeah, cohorts.
I just always like a game that gives you kind of an overlord mind to project into. Triangle Agency has the general manager, Fellowship has the overlord, and in here you just get to be a baddie, and that's fun to me. There's a lot more that I like, but we'll get into it. I have literal bookmarks in here ready to talk about. So
Yeah, and we'll come back to your first question, Aaron, because I feel like I over dominated on our last stream, so I want to give you some good time to just ask some questions. And I'd say like, hey, it was a really hard time in your city last time, but it's still a really hard time in your
it
city
keeps
this time.
going. Yeah.
The but no, like I said, I love that also too. I also am a big fan of the hollow move. One of the things I told Aaron before you hopped on was like you did a really great job, and in this stage of PbtA design, I feel like wasn't happening a lot of. I think for a lot of people, they feel like in the conversation of Powered by the Apocalypse, there has to be a GM. And you did a really good job of saying, hey, there is a GM role, but decentralizing that and moving that authority around the table in a way that was the first time I had seen it. I won't say it was the first time it was done because I don't know that that's true, though it may have been. That kind of move to say, hey, like we can use some of like some special moves, some other things we encounter to do some very proceduralized things that says that allows the conversation to take place between in a fully egalitarian way, which I think reinforces a lot of the style that PBTA really wants the GM to inhabit anyways. So kind of by saying, hey, we're gonna decentralize that role. I think there's a really interesting embodiment of Powered by the Apocalypse design that comes forward to helping people understand like how do we have this conversation around the table? How are we responding to and shaping the narrative? And I think, like I said, the hollow move to me is such a great example of that. It's an exploration move as you kind of move into the woods to kind of figure out where you're going next. You do this move to kind of help with the exploration process to see kind of how that trip goes. Is it smooth? Is it not? Is it other? And by all that kind of little proceduralization between that, the fiend, and other things, it lets people kind of start to see how the GM is making choices, what is happening in that conversation, and I think it clarifies a lot of really great things about the Powered by the Apocalypse like ethos. So that's kind of like some of the reasons that I was excited to specifically talk about Babes. But again, I think for Aaron and I were both just big fans of everything that you do and World Champ Game Co. Does also too. And so we'll probably dive into some other things after we fully exhaust that. Chat, if you have questions about Babes in the Wood, other games that Aaron has designed, or that Adam has designed since they're the guest.
Not me. Don't ask me.
Uh, feel free to drop them into the chat as we go. But yeah, those are some of the reasons that I kind of really loved everything that the game is about, because I think it's showcasing something different in Powered by the Apocalypse design that a lot of people have picked up on since. So any thoughts you have on why you're such a great designer or observations about the game as you know, 2 editions and 3 form factors later?
I think there was in Babes a specific goal to mechanize a lot of that stuff that feels very ethereal about PbtA, especially at that time, of saying like if your character is looking for something, this is the player who says what they find, and this is the player who expounds on that. Like, rather than everything being like you roll, here's the consequence, and the GM is going to tell you what it is. I wanted to be specific and explicit and say like the players are saying what they find or are saying that you know they're influencing the world in a way that the GM tends to be the only one doing, and the GM can, then expounds on that. But it is, yeah, a goal to spread out that creativity among all the players and let people riff, because I think that's what all role playing is really, but specifically PbtA is like, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? And like I'm kind of pulling, and in more trad games, the GM is kind of the arbiter of that decision. I want everyone to get that experience. And there's some padding too for people who like don't want that or are super new to that. Like there's still a teamwork or collaboration in terms of developing those ideas once they're stated. But yeah, I think again, like at the time, this was 2021, I think that this book came out, that it felt novel to make explicit some of these design ideals.
Yeah, love it. All right, let's dive in a little bit more then. Aaron, you said you've got a ton of bookmarks. I've got a PDF version I can pop up to talk about pages you're looking at. Let's dive in. We do have another great Adam fan comment in the chat. Retrofit says, "I'm the person you sent a box of zines to in Aurora. They got to play Bloodlock last week. Instead of keeping the end game cards in the deck, they played exactly 3 hours and then tapped out by drawing the end card. It was a perfect session for their 3 hour strict table." And so, also, I saw a lot of shout outs for Bloodlock because people were saying, "Are there any vampire Morkborg games out there?" And everybody in Talkborg was like, "This one, and everyone should have it." And so, um,
Yeah, that's a deep well if we want to if we want to get into it, but because I have a lot of thoughts on Bloodborg and Merkborg design too, but that's obviously a tangent away from the design philosophy we're talking about right now.
you're saying
I
that
have lots of thoughts about everything.
yeah, you're saying that that those are not the same thing. The no, let's hop in. Adam, where do you want to start? Sorry, Aaron, where do you want to start? Apparently,
You're gonna do this all night.
I'm gonna do it all
Yeah.
night.
I think one thing that stands out to me is that there are lots of quiet moments built into Babes in the Wood. Like in the Hollow movie you were talking about, if you roll well, uh, it's put on the players to just kind of describe some things they see, and relax and reflect. And I think so many PBTA games, to their credit, are built on like driving the narrative forward, and your most common result is going to be maybe a success with a complication, and so things get harder and more stressful, and it builds up to kind of either this big failure or finally a success. And the rhythm of Babes in the Wood is much quieter, and it's much more pedestrian in a compliment way, like you're
Yeah.
walking. And so I was just curious about what if there were any influences or any, direct thoughts about how can I slow this down? How can I help frame quiet scenes, maybe where quote unquote nothing happens, but it's very important to the aesthetics of those stories you were mentioning as influences of like seeing a strange thing, seeing an ethereal beauty, and taking a moment.
Yeah, I think a lot of that style of media, these are the moments in between the water cooler moments are where characters get to talk to each other about how they feel. And like specifically in Adventure Time, like Finn and Jake will be on their way somewhere and they'll just kind of like pick each other's brain, like, or especially in like later seasons, like asking Finn, like, "Are you okay, dude? Like a lot of stuff's going on and you just got dumped by this girl and like we're on our way to slay this monster, but like the monster's going to be easy. Like, are you good?" And I think too, when you were um when you were asking the question, I thought of like Stand By Me and like asking someone to what's the plot of Stand By Me. It's like, well, the kids are like just mucking around. Like that doesn't mean that there's not a story, and it doesn't make those characters uninteresting, but the story is just how they live and how their lives are affected by knowing one another, right? So I think that is kind of like a philosophy that I put into most of my games. Um, maybe accepting the horror one shots where you don't know your character well enough and then they die. But like adventure games, even something like Cyber Metal, like you have your base and that's where your gang lives and you're doing kind of like community projects together, um, to varying degrees of silliness or absurdity. But like at the end of the day, the action is pretense for exploring what these characters' thoughts are. And this game, again, like with PbtA, you have an opportunity, but also on some level, I think you have a responsibility in its design to frame the pacing and the um kind of, yeah, just like accoutrement that is around action. And this being a genre study, I think that making checking in on one another's emotions and how that reflects in again the physical space that you inhabit, and it's like creepy but also like pretty, and you can you want to just have those moments of like joy amongst moments of calamity and like you said peace. I think that's important for I think having contrast in play is important for making things interesting and things stand out. And I also think it really emphasizes the themes of this style of storytelling.
Love it. um, yeah. I think it's one of the things that PbtA Design does really well. Like we were talking to Vincent and Meg at the beginning of the month about like how do you give undue emphasis to a specific moment in time, and I think a lot of people try to live in that like those are go 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 moments, right? But I think for me and my lived experience, um, go 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 moments might be where an important experience happens, but it is like the quiet moment that you get to reflect on it, which is where change takes root and takes hold. Like if you cannot process the experience, right, or have those quiet moments. And I love that like that opening like summation of like it's like when they're on their way to the dragon, it's like, hey, that's the easy part, right? Like this is the thing we know how to do. There are these other things that we don't know how to do, and how is that impacting us in this moment? Like the ability to pause and unpack that is kind of such a important thing that I think most like a lot of other types of play gloss over, right? Like that is not the focus of the game, and I don't think that's bad. But I also think there's a lot of times where people will bring up like, oh, that moment, that session where we didn't do any of the things and we just stopped and talked was great. Games that give you the space for that. And I think PbtA specifically has the ability to do that in some very distinctive way, is huge, and I think it's like truly on deep display in Babes. In a like non PbtA specific question, there's one of the things about Babes that I'm always kind of super curious about. You're a tremendous visual artist. I mean, I think, right? Like, I think you have a lot of talent. And obviously, like, there are things that match your style, and Babes is a different tone. How do you decide when it's like, hey, this is something I'm going to do the art on versus, hey, I want to bring in an artistic collaborator to do something else? Because I think as we look through, like, a lot of parts of this, it's easy to see your artistic influence in the entire thing, even if you aren't doing the art. But there's an intentional choice here to share that space and have somebody else kind
Yeah,
of take the lead on it. Can you talk about that decision a little bit and inviting folks in?
I think there's always, I mean, I think there's like the logistical reason that is like if I'm making a zine that I'm gonna put out on my own for $10, like I probably can't hire somebody. Sometimes I still do that, but um for a project like this that I consider kind of like a tentpole release, I want to put that effort in. And Uh, the other is like, do I know someone who can do this better than I can? Um, because I think again with something like Cyber Metal, like that book lives through my visual art as well. And the writing and everything, and that being a project that I just made on my own because it was in a way about my own lived experience was like important to me. Whereas this is like I could do a worse version of like kids book illustration. Like push come to shove, I could get it done. It might not be as effective. And Kim is someone who I've known for a long time now and a really talented illustrator. And even like she's not a kid's book illustrator by any means either. Like she's very multifaceted, but um I just know that she has a similar vision, likes a lot of similar things, and we get along. And it's also really awesome to work with someone who lives in the same town as you, um, which is kind of a novel experience, especially in the RPG world where people are scattered all around the world. To just be able to go meet up in real life at the coffee shop or the bar or whatever and look at sketches or brainstorm or do whatever, just makes the whole thing feel a lot more I don't know, like close to home, literally and figuratively. Like just getting to work with Kim was really great for that. And then like having Seb write poetry, knowing that I again like I've never really considered myself the best writer, and specifically again this is an outlier in my catalog as someone who writes mostly about dirt bags to write like a kids friendly project. I needed someone who had a little bit more, yeah, just like a more poetic look at the world and had the words that could relay that. And Seb did a great job, and I tried to do the calligraphy myself, and it wasn't really fitting. I had done calligraphy classes in the past, but mine I kind of gravitate again towards messier and like harder to read stuff. So I had my friend Rachel do it, who was a more traditional and like more educated calligrapher. And like again, all these collabs worked because there's someone who cares about their craft in the way that I care about mine, and also their craft is distinct enough from mine that the collab was better than anything. It was more than the sum of its parts. Like it was better than what I could have done on my own, and I would have just been emulating these people anyway. So I'd rather tag them in and pay them for it instead of just like doing my cheap imitation.
And I do think that's a
It's
huge ethos for like not only your design, but like the things you have formed in community. Also, like the Brain Trust being a great prime example of like this is a space where people can come and collaborate. And I think there's a lot of people who have essentially tried to replicate like what the types of communities you naturally form do. But it's also like you and Will have a very light touch about it. Like it's a very powerful and I think felt thing, but y'all are really insistent about what values were early on in the Brain Trust and really just looked for people who could come in and be like, hey, this is a different skill set. They're not going to replicate what we do, but giving people a lot of creative freedom. Like I consistently see that not only in the work that you do when you collaborate, but also like in the types of community that you form, which is something I know we'll come back to because I know what my next question I'm going to ask you is, but it's something I see kind of repeatedly, and I think it's a really beautiful thing to watch you kind of pursue in an ongoing manner that just is always really breathtaking for me to kind of see. So yeah. Aaron, I'm going to do the right name
You
this time.
almost said it wrong.
I almost
I
did.
was
I stopped myself.
I think we're heading in the same direction with community stuff, but I did want to say that the children and dirtbags overlap is quite significant. And so to say like this is way out of my wheelhouse, it's about kids, not dirtbags. And it's
Yeah.
like I think kids and dirtbags get
They
up to a
think in
lot of the
similar
same
ways.
Yeah.
right,
They
right.
they act before they think a lot of the time. And there's definitely commonality there, but I think specifically in this case the audience being kids
Yes.
or uh 40-year-old dirtbags is the distinction.
Yes, of course.
And I mean dirtbag in like the most loving I am a dirtbag.
Yeah. I mean, the dirtbag should know better.
Yeah.
The kid should not. Like that is essentially the difference.
But yeah, Tony, if you're gonna ask about community stuff, go for it. I have one like very design heavy question, but also wanted to talk about community and representing them in games and building them in
let's
real
let,
life.
let's
So,
let's let's do the design one. We'll come back to community because I was just like we'll go back and forth at the design
all
one.
right, all right. So Babes in the Wood has a lot of uh breaking down or reassessment of a 2d6 roll. Like there's d6 rolls. There's the epilogue move where you're rolling two dice and remembering or portraying moments of your life based on the singular die results. And Cyber Metal is this amazing D100 system, but you're also often looking at the results on each D10 for the D100. And so I think of you as someone who takes, there's a big push to universal mechanics, like in D&D 3.5 or whatever. It's like it should only ever be one roll. You shouldn't have to do 2d6 and then a d20 and something else. And I feel like you have squared the circle on those of like, yes, this
Yeah.
is a 2d6, but also can we assign meaning to each of the dice separately? Can we just derive a different meaning if we put them together? Not adding them, but as a singular die face. And Cyber Metal does a similar thing. And I just wanted to ask about like, do you have any suggestions for people who have a central mechanic and then want to complicate that or derive other stuff from it? Because I think it's something that you do really well.
Yeah, I love doing that and think that there's this was something that I think I derived from something that Will said. Will Yobst, who's the other co-founding member of the Brain Trust, um, about playing cards and how much information is stored in a single playing card because you have the suit, the color, the number, whether the number is or whether the card is a face card or not. Is an ace one of like how does that fit in? You have a joker, which is this complete outlier, and generally, it's almost wasteful in a. I mean, it's not like an actual waste, but it's almost wasteful to be like, I flipped a card. Is it higher than seven? Like, yeah, sure it is, but is it like what suit is it? How much higher than seven is it? Like, there's data that you can pull that can affect and flavor things. And so I took that theory, which, or philosophy rather, I guess, and applied it to dice and said, like, we have kind of trad style binary success and failure. And I don't hate that on its own, but like we're not done yet. And like I do like that idea. Like I remember playing D&D 3.5 and having one of our players roll everything at once just in case. So he would roll to attack, he would roll a second D20 just in case he critted, then damage roll and it just like all at once, and then if he failed, he didn't need the rest, but he would be able to like chain them. And I was like, the time that you're saving is like infinitesimal. Like it does not matter at all. And I don't think any of us as players are worried about losing those seconds to looking and seeing what the dice rolls are and making unnecessary or necessary rolls. But the idea of having all of my information in front of me and what choices come from those was really interesting to me. So I do think the like D100 split and assign. There's also a little bit from this game Dicey Dungeons that I really love. That's a dice placement game. So each character class has like cards that do certain things, and you have dice that you roll, and you can place them on the cards to activate them. Some cards you have to have three or less, and some cards you have to. So you're like s- strategizing what's the best way I can use these dice to do the most on my turn mechanically. And I think that I kind of extrapolated that and said, like, what's the most creatively I can do with a single dice roll or a single instance of overcoming an obstacle? Can I get more information or story out of that moment? So every time we hit these little speed bumps, they push us further than than like the sort of again like incremental combat roles of D&D.
Yeah, Cyber Metal 2012. I think you've said this. I think I've said this. Like, I'm so surprised it's not one of the most popular games in the world. Like, it's so good. It's so dense. A single roll is like success or failure plus damage plus like narrative swing after that. And then, like it became a fun community project in Viditya. Valetti did Longsword, and people were playing with like swapping the dice and just
Hmm.
like it's so compact and dense without seeming complicated. It just should be it should be the
It's
system that
such a
people are
good
starting
game
with.
that
Yeah.
has yeah. I mean, like, and here's the thing, like, whenever we have it in stock, like, which I should pick up more copies, like, it sells. Like, anytime we have it in stock, it sells at events immediately, like, fast. But it is describing how this like the compact beauty of the mechanics like are a huge thing that like Keegan's Blister City like has a major influence of Down We Go and Cyber Metal, but dice rolling is Cyber because it has such good flow to it. That's constantly doing new things.
It's an awesome book too. Like truly if you are interested in design and you're starting off, this just feels like a weird, strange Bible to find. Did you drew part of it with like a ripped up soda can? Is that true?
Yeah, I had for, like just for me joke that everything was drawn in traditional media and not like on a computer for my cyberpunk game. I colored stuff and edited it in Photoshop and everything, but everything was drawn with ink on paper. And one of the pens that I came back to the most was like
Pens.
a seltzer can folded in half and like taped around a dowel rod and dipped in ink. And
Yeah.
so it like spits and sprays and um, also, my tease is that I'll be returning to Pentagram City later this year. Not maybe with I mean the annual zine that we were talking about sounds really cool. So
We
I actually
should I'd be yeah, I want to see that happen. So,
I'm tempted.
I mean, you got a whole year to figure that one. You can just make
Yeah.
that next year's thing. Yeah, there's so much good stuff there. And also like it was fun talking to Nova about how that influenced your in space and everything's artistic style also too of them like being like, yeah, Adam went back to that over and over again. And I want to get freaky with it also too. And the art and layout on that ended up tremendous also too for that same kind of raw vibe as well. So um got a great question from Far I just decoded it. Farles the GM. I was going to try to pronounce that as one long word and it is not. It's Farles the GM. They wanted to talk a little bit about your philosophy or hot takes on basic moves. They think Make a Wish from Babes in the Woods is something in particular that struck them as formalizing the that role doesn't make sense, let's ignore it concept. What was your calculus in making a basic move that a basic move rather than part of the narrator playbook? How has keeping those moved available for everyone versus restricted impacted the way the Babes in the Woods games you've played? So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Make a Wish as a move. Do you want me to read it out loud? Or do you have that
Sure.
at good recall? Let me get down to it.
I couldn't, if you were like, tell me a thing you wrote in 2021, I would never be able to.
Yeah,
So it's wild that you're like,
this is
Adam, do you
just
want to go for that?
classic host. Yeah, you want me to read that out loud for you? Here we go. This is the text. It's not long. Make a wish. After rolling for a move, you may spend a wish to change the result of your roll to a result of your choosing. So basically, it is just the ability to say, hey, if you have accumulated wish, like as a meta currency in the game, you can spend it and then look at any other move you have rolled and say, actually, like this is the result that I wanted. But it does. It serves as a way to say, hey, narratively, does this make sense? No, and or just here's what I actually wanted, right? So super short little move, but with a lot of impact in every other move in the game or any other game you're playing.
Yeah, the meta currency was definitely like a thought of there's quite a few ways to gain wishes through play. One that I remember is saying your catchphrase. And so just like having a character that uh I wish I could remember which podcast it was that I want to give them credit, but there was a actual play of Babes in the Wood podcast, and one of them had a possum critter character, and his catchphrase was "Oh sticks," and I laughed every time I was listening to the show and he'd say it, and that's the goal, right? Like to say something silly, and having it be a recurring thing, like an inside joke among the players. And then in doing so, you gain a wish, and now it's that easy. Like you have one in your pocket, so whenever you want to affect the game, you can. And I think back then too, I thought a lot about the like coin flip decision making and knowing what your heart wants the second that coin is in the air. Like rather than truly wanting a random result, uh it just makes it clear to you which one you actually prefer. And so I want players to have that and say like, and I think the wording is specific too, that you can lower a success if you wanted to. Like you choose which result you want. And if you think it's funniest if you get caught doing a prank before the prank fires off and you roll a success, like you can actually say like, no, I think it's actually really funny if we botch this and make a big old problem for ourselves. Um, and again, it's sort of democratizing the idea of taking that uh roll with the punches away from a GM and saying like the player can say what result they want and interpret it how they want and make a mess how they want, because this is a game about making and cleaning up messes in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So mechanically that's there to say like this you can write on the walls with marker or crayon, like, and you might get grounded for it, but like that's your decision ultimately.
Odds and ends dropped an O sticks in the chat. Let's get an O six in the chat from everybody. No, I think one of the things I really love about Babes is there's a lot of moves that feel super grounded in the genre, which is not surprising for PbtA. Like that's very common. But there's a lot of moves like Make a Wish. I'm like I was very obsessed, and I think it's part of the reason I fell in love with Aaron, and I am using the name correctly. Aaron's style of PbtA design.
I
But
thought you were
one of the
saying you
things
fell in love with me.
I did, and then but it's also one of the things that I think made me fall in love with Babes is a lot of the moves do function as meta moves. Like it would be easy to be like, oh, I'm going to pick up Wish. I'd have to figure out how I'm achieving that meta currency, but that's like that feels like an easy option to add into other things, or like when you roll a 12 plus or whatever you want to do, and drop that in. I think Epilogue also too, like the structuring of Epilogue, though you might want to change some of the language to match what you're doing, like works incredibly well as a meta move that would fit into most like PbtA games with very little adjustment.
Or
And
even if
so,
it's just like the final session of your D&D campaign,
right,
like you can take that epilogue thing and just
and just
use it
drop it
as
in.
a structure. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is funny to just be like, to me, it's like people love to like separate out story games from OSR, and I just think they're all games. And they're all fun to play. Hot take. But like, again, I think a part of what I love about Babe specifically is that a lot of the moves feel like OSR procedures, right? Like they feel like here is the little bitty thing we're doing in this situation to make this part of the game incredibly fun. And after having sat down and talked to the bakers, like it's very clear like that's the intent of moves, is to make this segment of the game fun, not just to say how do we do it. Again, this deconstruction of like special moves that you like you're opening of like there are moves in this game that you may not ever encounter unless you do very specific things, immediately makes the completionist brain go like, I gotta go find those moves and do those weird freaky
Mhm.
things. But strikes of like, hey, like I want the fishing mini game, right? Like I want like the one-off thing we're gonna do that we're not gonna do any other time. The general structure of PbtA move is great for that, but your way of writing them specifically, I think, also makes those things feel again incredibly grounded in the narrative and to match that moment in a really kind of intentional way. So, um,
I'll
uh,
I'll say too, a lot of that was emulating the way that Aaron writes moves or did in 2021, because I
Well, but
feel
I
like
think
that was
how has Aaron's
the
moves
dis
changed? We're gonna shift. How has Aaron's move
Oh,
changed in
I
the
just
last week?
wanted to
No one
offer
discuss
that
it.
up in case you think they've changed, because I think having them be very specific instances or using language that is encouraging you to move towards it. I think that's one of the specific things that I really gathered from it instead of being catch-alls because was coming from this was one of the first games I made, so it was coming from playing D&D and having um attack rolls and defense rolls and all the shit and realizing like that's not what this game is about, so I don't need that. But I do need to really think about what happens when a player just wants to sit down on a rock and say like I don't want to do this anymore. And because this is going to be something that comes up way more than swinging a sword, and so I want to mechanically and narratively support that. And so yeah, a lot of the moves, especially special moves, were like me trying to imitate Aaron's move writing language.
But I got the zine from you in
Yeah,
2019
it's
at
an
Big Beck.
Ouroboros.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah,
all eating each other's tails,
yeah,
in a
yeah.
good way. The I mentioned earlier wanting to talk about community. This is me wanting to talk about my favorite weird overlap in our personal lives. That is also one of my favorite things to see on the internet. So we're going to get more personal. I want to talk a little bit about morning ritual. Is that all right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I get to geek out with Adam about every once in a while via text, where I'll just randomly send them a picture of a drink I've made at the coffee shop I manage. It is going to be a picture of the coffee shop that Adam's spouse has designed for Morning Ritual, a coffee shop in your city where you do the art and the graphic design
Yeah.
and form a lot of community around. And that kind of organically grew. Like you were not married and then started doing like you started going to. I mean, I remember you talking about setting up game nights at your local coffee shop,
Yeah.
and just like it's been cool to watch that grow over the last little bit. But also, it's one of the dopest fucking coffee shops in the world. I constantly try to get. My wife has family in your city, and I always am trying to say, "Hey, can we go to Grand Rapids this summer to visit your family?" But it's really just because I want to go hang out at Morning
Yeah.
Ritual.
I'll meet
Um,
you there. It's not far from
yeah,
me.
I will let everyone know when we're going. I'll dox myself. It's a gorgeous space. Y'all do really amazing things, but the biggest thing is like y'all are regularly doing live shows. Like y'all are regularly playing there. Like it's super grounded to you, and that is again something like you have a sense of place. I feel like in the world that a lot of people modernly lack. The city that you live in, not just the coffee shop, but like that's been something that your life has kind of revolved around in different ways that we've talked about, and it's been cool to see that grow. I feel like a lot of people are really disconnected from that sense of place today, and I think the two of you do a really great job of creating a space for community. Like I said, I've been the beneficiary of that in online spaces, but there's a whole offline space that comes into. I did not prep you for asking this question at all, so I'll vamp for a little bit after. After, I mean, I told you I want to talk about the coffee shop, but like,
Yeah.
the question I want to ask, and then I'll make a couple observations while you have time to think, is like, can you talk a little bit about how you go about inviting people into those community spaces, because it's not like you're like, hey, come hang out in this community space. Like I think a lot of people try to make that direct invitation, and while it is open and while y'all are doing that, there seems to be a different intention in how you're moving it forward that just seems to naturally invite other people to go like, oh, me also, I want to do that thing. And so I'd love insight for you on kind of how that's been a part of your life through the coffee shop, through Brain Trust, through kind of however you want to lens it. But it's one of the most beautiful aspects that I think is present in almost every creative outlet I see you do is like Adam is never going alone, right? Like you are a singular standout creator. You are incredibly capable of just being like, hey, I can do this. I'm gonna do it. But to your early points about collaboration, you are constantly looking to other people and inviting them to be a part of that and creating space for that. So I'd love to just like have you talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit and kind of the community spaces y'all are creating around you.
I think it's always been something that I've prioritized either knowingly or unknowingly. I think growing up and being kind of not like uh I feel like I wasn't like cool growing up, but I also wasn't like picked on every day. I just kind of like existed. And I think that that was sort of formative in that I could see almost from the outside like um not just like clickiness, but like the ways that groups would be able to function socially and like benefit one another, almost kind of like in this weird I as like a very hard side thing, I think I like and have always liked examining how things work and like picking out that's why I got into games, and on some level that's how I got into music. And I use the analogy sometimes of Sylar from the first season of Heroes, who is a villain who could like his power was understanding how things work, so he would look into other heroes' brains and be like, "Oh, I know how to fly now," um, because he can just like read the code effectively. And I think that's anyway. So extrapolating that, I think I just like could understand and could see how things worked and why they worked and like find interest in that. And I think that extrapolates to being a teenager in like DIY music world and like booking shows together and saying like, I'm creative with this group of four people, five people, that's my band, and then we play shows on the weekend with this band. And so you offer trades and like, oh, if you book in my town, I'll book in your town and that kind of, or I'm a visual artist since forever, so I would say like, let me design a t-shirt for you guys and like kind of skill trade in a way to make those connections, and then they become hopefully and they kind of naturally become more personable than just business transactions. And I think to fast forward and like see how that has affected my like games life and the way I live in the city, like um they there's always like things to learn that I can't teach myself. And I love learning. And I think that's one of my like things that I value the most is like being a person is learning from people and or just learning things and accumulating knowledge and theory and whatever. And the best way to do that is just to like listen to other people. And I think that really comes again like having that skill trade, having that like connection over shared interest or shared, especially shared politic in music and art world. I think a lot of the time there are uh, innately left-leaning people in those spaces, and that's something that you can forge really deep and strong connections with people over having just shared values. Um, I'm vamping now, but I think I just have always enjoyed it and gotten something out of watching other people thrive. And Um, I know Alex, my spouse, gets a lot of that too from and fostering that through the coffee shop and having a place that is other people's third place. Um, and being, I say to her sometimes it's like a our lives are like a solar system, but morning ritual is like the sun around which a lot of our social life and personal life and professional life like rotates around. And sometimes those planets will go further on orbit and sometimes they'll be much closer, but it is kind of the thing that or the physical space, or I guess even the philosophy, because it's moved spaces and it's stayed this way. But having that place for people to forge connections and again having it be over what is arguably a false pretense that is coffee or like um
I don't think it's a
just
false
like
pretense, but I think
I mean
I think it's a
it's a
convenience.
pretense,
Yeah, it's a
yes. uh
pretense.
and like the natural growth from it being a place to get a drink to being a place of community and having shows and having artists like show their stuff there and doing we did a event I did like in December, I think there's this zinesters in town who operate under this banner called Practical Romance, and they came and set this thing up, and like they all were selling art prints and like little ceramic sculptures that they made and zines that they'd collabed on, and like I sold some of my games there and mostly just traded with them and like hung out. And there were some people there who I hadn't seen in 10 years and some people who I'd never met before, and like but we were all just vibing around that creative energy and that like, oh, you make cool stuff and you think I make cool stuff, and now we are able to kind of interact on a more interesting level that's like maybe one level or two levels below surface. Like we're getting past some of the small talk or like getting to know, because you already have established that you have things that you care about or speak about in your artwork or whatever thing you're presenting, and it allows people to know you in that deeper way. I think that's probably a point that I was orbiting for a while, to mix my metaphors, was that um the way in which I interact with art, whether it be making it or appreciating it or whatever, and that art could be games or music or drinks or whatever, is displaying my values and like cares in a public-ish voice. And people who respond to that voice, I generally can have a faster connection with because they know something vulnerable about me.
Love it. It's beautiful.
I was gonna say too, like Tony, you were talking about like the community and the collaboration that Adam does, but also there is like a pendulum of like deeply personal, intensely self works that then I don't know if it is a back and forth necessarily, but do you have a process for when you have something that's like, this is in me, it needs to come out, I'm doing it alone, it's
Oh
12
yeah.
pages, and then there is a longer 80-page book where you're planning out art and other stuff like that.
I think it depends on how urgent it feels. I think Hole in My Head, the zine that you just held up, felt very urgent at the time. And it's something that's kind of been, and I write about this, like a third of that zine is like essays and not necessarily a game. And even the game part is kind of ostensibly a game, but I don't expect people to play it as such. It's not like a fun time in that way. It's a game very much about like mental illness and all the uh trigger warnings on the book. Um, but it felt like I was at a fever pitch and I needed to do something with it. Um, Whereas something like cyber metal is something that's like ruminating. I guess I just have a lot more to say about it. And um, again, like as my 30 something life, and specifically that life in Grand Rapids, and where I fit into this greater social hierarchy that is like the world, because like yes, I have my community that I value here, and um but like we're not the only people around. Like this is where Amway is from, and they all are a nightmare, and they're part of that um
I
social
thought I
structure
thought for a
too.
second you were
So
gonna
like they're
just shift into a pitch for like, and if you want to sign up, here's my link.
so there's a lot of stuff in cyber metal too about just like the powers that be, even in this like anarchist dystopia setting, because it's so cooked into what society and culture is like in West Michigan. And yeah, I think that I had a lot of thoughts around those people. I had a lot of thoughts about persevering as a counterculture, like being happy as an act of resistance in the face of those kind of oppressors, and a lot of those themes that I felt like I needed to dig deeper into something like cyber metal. But I think, yeah, a lot of my zines are like almost burps, right? Like I have this feeling, and I'm just gonna like kind of get it out real quick. And they might be underdeveloped, and they might still like be powerful. I think that zine is it was intense, but it was exactly what I like wanted it to be in that time, and I think people connected with it in a valuable way, a way that was valuable for me. Um, so my goal was accomplished there. But I think if cyber metal just kind of like glossed over a lot of the things that I think are important or relevant about living here, it wouldn't have been as interesting or as effective of a book if I didn't dig a little bit deeper. So I don't necessarily have a system by which I determine which things are more or less pressing or more or less deserving of expanding upon, but they just kind of happen naturally, and I know the ones that I could rant about for much longer versus the ones that I just like have a kind of thought piece on.
Yeah. Love it. That's beautiful. Um, uh, I've got a question about some of the hard moves because that's our theme for the year. In your book, Aaron, any questions you want to ask Adam before I hop into that?
Mine are out. Mine have been burped out.
Excellent. I'm gonna burp away.
I
Uh,
also feel like on the note of community building in Grand Rapids, I think uh to give credit, like Alex, my spouse, is the one who runs and owns Morning Ritual, and the ways in which we've worked together really um are have been effective and like interesting for the ways because like I do have some experience with navigating community in that sense, but like she really took that from scratch to become the community space that I then wanted to be part of. And like then I started going and would do events there or work with them on visual stuff, and like that kind of also led to the two of us getting to know one another and eventually getting married. So she really is the like champion of Morning Ritual as a community space. And I think I
I
got
didn't
to
want to not
take
provide credit where credit was due. That's why I was
right
like, you inherited this. No, I appreciate you saying that because
because
I don't know how much I don't know how much you want people to be checking out like the work your wife is doing online or how much she wants that. Like I'm assuming a good amount. Like I think y'all are very public
sure,
people and that.
yeah, yeah,
But
and I think in addition that attention kind of allows us to do more of it and to figure out other ways in which we can interact. Like we just recently had a person in our city named Kai who's a political activist who was arrested and now is in jail for 6 months for protesting effectively. Um, and which is just like utter insanity, but obviously there's that kind of level of insanity all across America. Um, and so there were people like organizing letter writing campaigns that would go to Morning Ritual and do that. And because now the coffee shop, the new location is across the street from the courthouse where that protest took place, and like where it is physically closer to a lot of the issues that are taking place in our city. Um, and I think she's done a good job of making it emotionally closer to those issues as well.
it's beautiful. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of both of y'all. Like, I mean,
And the drinks slap. So
they're
like
tremendous. Like they're so. I mean, like I only know the weird variants of them that I make in the in the coffee shop. But I again I will send pictures to y'all of like I made this today. It was fucking delicious. It's such a beautiful space. Like coffee shops are such an intentional from their inception, a place of ideas and culture and counterculture. I think y'all have captured the vibe in a really beautiful way, and like I said, it's cool to have seen you benefit from that. Get it like just become more involved within the community space, and then now like being part of the couple that like like is doing that. Like obviously your wife is leading that charge and really doing
right.
like the heavy lifting on that, but like
There is just a
But
lot of cool
could
ways
she
that we
write
work.
Cyber Metal 2012?
yeah. Did you?
She did help me develop a lot of it. And like
No,
Morning Ritual is a location in Cyber Metal 2012. It's just Mourning, and it's a cyber cafe. But
So good.
yeah, like we do get to team up. Like if she has an idea for a zine and I know how to make zines, like now we're cooking together. Like there's a lot of collab in that space. But I yeah, did want to make sure that I
No, I
emphasized that.
appreciate that because that's good, better for you to do than
Oh
for me to
yeah.
be like, let's talk
Aaron's
about your
holding up
wife
a
a
game
lot.
that we wrote together. That
Dollars, yeah.
was an IGDN award nominee for best rules. but we did it together as like a Valentine's Day release of here's a game that you can play with your partner or crush, or it doesn't even have to be that, but it uses tarot cards and circles around themes of love and romance. And yeah, it was
So if you're
she's
looking for a Valentine's Day game, go
yeah.
to worldchamp.io. Get lovers. Um, no, I'm going to use one of these hard moves in a second. It's the first one I'm going to do. So it's ask a player. It's ask about feelings. So these are like hard moves. We talked about it a little bit last time with the bakers or the moves the GM makes. I actually think your setup for hard moves on the narrator moves page, which I'll pop up so people can see it, is really good. I think it de-escalates the adversarial nature that a lot of people worry about with this and really invites people into that. Specifically, it's your note on the bottom, which isn't on the screen right now. Let me move some stuff up so people can see it.
It's also abecedarian, right?
Huh?
It's in alphabetical order.
Oh
It's
yeah, the play principles
oh, those are the
are
That's the
principles,
play
not the okay.
principles, not the
Okay.
narrator moves.
Sorry.
But you got a little note like that. Most moves have story beats built into the 6- roll. Work with the player who rolled the move to elaborate on these prompts and decide what to do next, whether or not it involves using a narrator move, right? Like, so you're re-centralizing the relationship of the move that you are always working with the player, like to establish and build on that, right? Which I think is super helpful for a GM who's like, I don't want to, like, I don't know how to go hard. It's like, go, like, talk to the person and
right.
make sure everybody's okay with it. Like, it's a very clear, concise, here's how it works, which matches the theme, especially if you're playing with kids. But I think it's just super generally helpful advice that I see people.
Well, yeah,
struggle
and I
with a
think
lot.
too, a lot of PbtA moves at that time, 6- was just unlisted. 6- was
Make a move as hard as
you
you want.
fail,
Or
gain XP, and let the GM decide what happens
Yeah.
next. And I wanted to again alleviate some of that GM burden and say like, when you fail a prank or something, like you get caught. Like there are logical steps to take on failure that are not uninteresting, like, but there's a little bit more fodder for the GM to not have to come up with something whole cloth every time.
Yeah.
And yeah, using that language and saying like the player can kind of encourage or discourage you from going as hard as you want because you're not, it is a game about kids and like wonder and fear. So you're not probably going to have like hard injuries. You're going to have scraped knees and like you lose a tooth or you get a headache or something. Like, so it would be irrational to say like do a hard move and your guts come out or whatever. Like, it's just obviously I think that's implied, but I I think about this a lot. The line to straddle between what's implied and what's explicit in a game and how much you as a designer are responsible for some fool who does say your guts come out in Babes in the Wood. Like, did I screw up by not making that clear? Or I mean, you can't account for everybody, but
Right.
um having a little bit of scaffolding around your
But
intent, I
there
think
are
is
other World
valuable.
Champ Game Co. games you can go play if you want
Most,
guts to come out.
you
yeah, you
start
can,
with your guts coming out in about half of Adam's games, I think.
yeah.
Um,
In ether operations, you just are guts that came out. That's your character.
yeah. But in a second, I'm going to use the "Ask Me About Feelings" move on you. But there are 4 moves that kind of stand out to me. I think some of them are really good at 2 of them are really good at kind of hitting themes, but I think 2 of them are really distinctive to Babes. Like they exist in other games now, but I really love them as like early articulations of some of that. But like I think call back, bring back past folks, shadows, clues, omens, or problems with new circumstances or complications, I think just creates a really good motif building element to just tell the GM like, hey, part of this is just building a better story. Like taking other things that already exist and bringing them back up as a hard move is a really beautiful, like, hey, just narratively reinforce something that you want to have become important in the story. I think Scare and Omen are really good, also too on the themes of the like game itself. Also too, but the 2 that I love that again these feel like some of the earliest times I see them, though I see them become very common later. And like I'm not an Aaron King is the expert on the history of PbtA design, not me. But cut away, highlight events that aren't immediately in the vicinity of the kids, like characters making plans off screen, introducing some dramatic irony into the game. Like I'm a huge Unseens fan. We'll probably talk about it later on in the year with Jason or some other CFB creator. Like I'm a huge fan of the B plot, the off-screen narrative, other things like that. And for the GM just to have a moment where you're gonna narrate or work with the players to narrate a scene of what's happening off screen, I think is really tremendous. Like I think it's a really great way to build the narrative toolkit, and is oftentimes explored through like powers in other games. But in this one, it's just a hard move response where you can just basically foreshadow something in a really intentional, direct off-screen way. But then ask about feelings is ask a player about how their kid feels in a given situation and how they take action based on that feeling. This is conditions in a lot of later PBTA games. This is like the kind of like, hey, how are you feeling right now? What is happening to your character? And then doubling down on that by either assigning them a condition or doing something else. This is a very early like bringing about in that. I also think it goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier with the like just stop and have moments, right? Like just touch base and be introspective, and a hard move that's just like, hey bud, how are you doing? Like what
Well,
are
but so to me, the joy of it is there's two parts. There's ask how they're feeling, and then ask what they do because of it. Like so much media, whether it's a song or a movie or a poem, is just all about the feeling. Here's how I feel. I'm going to tell you how I feel. But then to say, do something, like take an action based on it, like move the narrative forward, show us that feeling in a way that might endanger you, trigger a move, something, something. Like to me, that's the beauty of that.
Mhm.
It's the quiet moment followed by the, okay, I get up off the rock and I hit someone in the knee or I, you know, make a loud noise that endangers us to a whatever. Like
Yeah,
that's the juice.
yeah, but handing that back to the player, I think, is so tremendous. So this is not a formal thing, and again, things we should probably prepare people better for next time, but you learn by doing. Meg Baker threw out a banger statement at the end of the last one. I'm not going to expect you to have to beat Meg Baker at making good authoritative, emotionally convicting statements. But like a big part of what we are talking about this year is hard moves, right? And Meg's was like, my hard move is compassion, which is like really great, like just being compassionate. Like you are somebody who I think is very very transparent, at least in conversations we've had about like hey, what's easy for you, what's hard for you. Again, we've talked a little bit about kind of just the growth and changes in your life over the last little bit. I would love to hear, like, do you in this year of 2026 like have a hard move, like a thing that you're trying to explore or work on, or a thing that you're really trying to kind of say, hey, this is my response to the world around me in a way that I'm trying to just make it through those things. Do you have so that's my big question is I'm going to use the hard move on you, ask you how you're feeling and what you're doing about it. And if you need us to vamp for a little while, we will.
Yeah, no, I'll wing it. I'll ramble like I do, and then I'll find the point in the journey.
That's great.
Um, I think that it's hard to assess because it's winter in Michigan, and there's so much of just the sort of like physically downtrodden. Today, uh, both mine and Alex's cars were stuck in the snow because the plow came overnight and just like stuck us in. I had a friend come over. We shoveled for like an hour. I thought I was gonna throw up the whole time, and I still could barely get the car out. So I just like fell asleep after that, and then that was pretty much my whole day. Which is to say that I guess the hard move was just like getting my boots on and going out there. But um philosophically, this year hasn't started yet until the snow kind of chills out a little bit here. It's been like pretty full on for the last couple weeks and a lot of time spent with Elden Ring. Um, for better or worse, a
That's
lot of
also been a
swearing.
hard move of reconfronting Elden Ring, I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, a lot of swearing at the TV, a lot of grinding my teeth.
I've talked about it before. I have a very distinctive way of playing Elden Ring, and that's watching my children do it. And anytime they die, saying you're not supposed to do that. That's my way. It's the best
The
way. It's the
game will
best way.
tell them that, Tony. They already know that.
Well, they do it repeatedly sometimes, so I just feel like I've got to make it clear three or four times, dad style. Hey, that guy keeps on killing you. Don't let him do that.
So I think my kind of, and this isn't also going to be an interesting, like, kind of outlier of a year in that Law Dispute had a new record come out in September. And so I am doing a month on, a month off of tour from now until August. So, like,
Jesus.
the way that that affects and not quite interrupts, but just, yeah, it just affects my ability to accomplish or even like identify personal goals is really difficult. Um, because time in which the spoons that I can dedicate to that are fleeting. Um, Hard to find sometimes because even just like coming home from a tour and knowing that in 4 weeks I'm going on another one, those 4 weeks can become a wash very easily. So, yeah, it's hard to identify uh plans of action beyond just surviving. And I think surviving is something, but it's like not necessarily uh aspirational, right? Like it's kind of the baseline. You want to do surviving plus one other thing.
Every
Uh
day.
so yeah, that will remains to be seen. I think there are again some like less mentally stimulating but still like things that I want to do, like work on my house and make my house a place that's more easily lived in and less just like, I don't know, just improve the vibes.
Yeah.
Um, I have not really been engaged with game design or definitely not publishing in months, probably since September, really, since the record came out and we started doing it, touring again. Um, and at some point, I just kind of felt like I was waiting for the lightning to strike, but I wasn't doing the thing, I guess, of like going out with the lightning rod and waiting. Um, like being available to that or acting in a way that facilitates that creative impulse. And I think in the last, I guess the front half of this month, I started feeling that again and kind of, we were talking off air a little bit about miniatures gaming and making stuff and just like that feeling of being creative and artistic in a new medium is really exciting. So I guess, to like try to put a bow on it, I think exploring new ways that I can interact with those kind of philosophical and existential questions that I have and not, I do love something like cyber metal, but what is missing from that book that I think about in a philosophical way? I don't know that there's much. Like, I can always add more cool stuff and cool stuff rules, but I want to find that thing that um compels me. I was gonna say excites me, but that's not even it. I need something to like need to come out of
It's
me
like a
again.
spiritual force
Yeah,
or a
yeah.
burp.
Well, yeah, and I think too sometimes I um talk about it as like tuning a radio and like looking for the station to come in clear. And I think especially with winter and especially with just like coming off of burnout and doing so much more for the band than I had done in quite a long time, that those stations were a lot fuzzier. And so I think my goal now, whether that be in music or games or something else, even just yeah, like uh domestic life, is just finding a station that comes in clear and makes me want to do something bigger. I want to like yeah, like uh yeah, make me need to do something more.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I really loved. I mean, I think it's a little bit similar, and I think there's a desire to make it feel far, but like survive and do one more thing does feel like pretty solid, right? Like I think that one more thing is like that's like the big, a lot of times the big question we're asking. But I
Yeah.
mean, I do kind of really love that because I think there is the feeling of like we need these big days like to like out to, and sometimes that's the case. Like sometimes it's like the first half of this week for me, I was just like fuck, why do I feel is it just the snow, is it whatever. Then I remembered we rearranged the entire house, and there's unfortunately a cat who lives here now, and that's unfortunate for a lot of reasons, but my allergies is a big one, and I took antihistamines for the last 2 days, and I'm like, oh shit, I can stay awake all day long because I don't just feel shitty because there's a cat around.
Can we
um
start a board, Tony, behind you with the hard moves?
Start a board right here.
Confront the world with compassion,
Confront the world with compassion.
survive and do one
Survive and do one
thing.
more thing. I mean, I loved Tune in the Radio is great. Put in your boots on is great. There's a lot of great stuff
Yeah.
in there. Like I mean, I think like I do love even the burps comment of like there are things that come out of you like and you feeling that calling and that connection and being able to like tune into that. I think is such a huge part of that, and I think a lot of people just they just hope it's going to happen. Like it's cool to hear you talk a little bit about why that is hard, but also like what it is like for you when you achieve those moments. So yeah, I appreciate you letting me inflict that hard move on you with no prep. You did not roll a 6 minus. This was a great interview.
Thank you.
Entirely unfair of me as a narrator to do it. We've been on for a little while. I wish we could have talked a little bit more about No Future. It's the game of yours that it was at Gen Con when we were selling a whole lot of them that I was like, holy shit, this is a CFB game. I just knew the themes of it. It sounds fucking great, and I want to play it more. It was also a collab, I think, with Chris
Yeah.
Bissett, who is
Yeah.
one of my favorite designers, also too, and does tremendous work with CFB stuff. And so, like, it is a game I'm hoping I get to sit down and play this year sometime. Maybe we can find a good time. We'll play it together. I bet you Aaron
It
might
is
come
really
play
fun.
with us. So,
Yeah. It is
um,
one of the few that I've of mine that I got to play, and it is just like ruckus.
I'll tell you about
It's
it.
good.
People can go check that and other games out over at worldchamp.io. I will say the best-selling World Champ game we had at Gen Con this year was Michigan Dogman. A lot of people got it because they were like, "I'm from Michigan and I know what this
Yeah.
is." But it is a much beloved game. Anytime we explain to people what it is, you're doing a lot of cool stuff, and maybe if we have a Borg theme, we'll come back on and talk about vampire Borgs. But people should check out Bloodborg and Bloodlock also too. Anything else you wanna? I did drop the link to La Dispute's most recent album in the chat also too. If people want to go check that and support you there. Anything else you want to shout out?
Um, nah, if you're in West Michigan, go to Morning Ritual, get a coffee. Um, and I have I think I'm gonna drop this skirmish game of mine soon
Cool.
for free and like just see if it works. But Cyber Metal Streets is the kind of tangential war game version of Cyber Metal 2012, where the philosophical aspect is shaved away a little bit in favor of the warriors worship. Here's some gangs that are fighting in a junkyard, and it's just fun.
Love it. Super excited about it. And again, just shout out Adam did all the all art for our merch. Adam sent me two drafts. He was like, "Here's a snake option, and here's a dagger option." I was like, "What if both?" And we just paid you more money. And they both turned out amazing. It's been really great to just kind of share that with people. The amount of tattoo artists who are into RPGs is really high, and anytime we're at events, they will find the booth and they're like, "I need this this stuff every single time." So really, really love having it on. Thanks so much for being here again at World Champ Game Co. This weekend, we have a couple of streams happening. One is Heaven in the Dust, which is Hades Town in a Dust Bowl. It is a great PbtA game that we're going to be playing on Friday night with the creator Luke. If you check out the Brain Trust podcast.
Oh, yeah, we have some new episodes that we haven't released yet. But braintrust.rocks is the hub for the Brain Trust.
And Aaron, anything you've been working on that you want to shout out?
No, I live in a war zone. You can go to standwithminnesota.com if you are interested in helping people. That's a website that is regularly updated with sources for donations and calls for help for people who are resisting ICE, but also people who are getting groceries for their neighbors who are scared to leave the house, or driving people to work so that they don't have to stand out in a bus stop alone and get taken by ICE.
Yeah, that's great to know because Aaron and I were talking about this before stream, and I got their permission. We're we're shutting down Plus One on Friday as part of a general strikeout. The website will be off and unavailable, and I'll make sure we have a redirect set up to that website during that day because we won't be doing anything else. We'd encourage people to go play a game, spend times with loved ones. Don't go out and spend money. Unfortunately, because we live in a capitalist hellscape and no one has sacrificed Ronald Reagan on stage during a performance yet, sending us into an alternate reality, then things suck. And the best way to broadly communicate that is by sharing your voice, but also telling capitalists to go fuck themselves and not spending money on anything. So Plus One EXP will be shut down on Friday in support of that. Please go take action to do something to support people. Sharing your voice is great, but if you can contribute $1, share things so that people know how to do it, or call your representative to let them know you are deeply unhappy with the things that are happening in our country. Those are all great small steps that you
Another
can take.
thing to do, sorry to interrupt, if it's
No,
okay,
do it.
like if you don't know your neighbors, introduce yourselves right now and exchange phone numbers because the thing that's happening here could be happening in your city next. And the best way to stand up to that is to know the people around you and to be ready to help them.
Yeah.
So, if you don't have money, if you don't have time, tell your neighbors hi and give them your phone number.
Yeah. Go help them shovel out their car if you can. Like
Shovel out a
there's a
car,
lot
put
of
on your
reasons right now
boots.
why it would be good to know the person who lives right next to you. A fascistic governance is the worst one. A snowstorm is nowhere near as bad by comparison, but a good time to be like, hey, can you borrow things from the people next to you? Do you know them? If their roof is falling apart and you're in a row home like ours, your roof may be falling apart also too. It's good to be connected to the people around you. One of my favorite images from the horrible hellscape that Aaron is having to live in was people barricading their streets and having miniature like communal time together. I wouldn't call it a block party, but block
No, it
resistance.
is. It's every act of you all out of here is also an act of like we are here together. And so anytime you're keeping someone else out, you're also keeping each other in and you're sharing resources. And it's nice. It sucks. And it's also really awesome to see the creative ways that people are forming community. So
Go check out Aaron's stuff. I also will say RPG creator Max Moon, who's a tremendous creator, is
another local friend. Yep.
Minneapolis based. If you want to go check out people locally, hear their voices, see what they're up to. Max is another one. Aaron, any other?
Asa Diebald's Spine is a like recent critical hit. That's a St. Paul designer who's been spending a lot of time doing other stuff.
My turn
Yeah.
to do a game that's
Yes,
in arm's
there's
reach.
Spine. Yes. That's a like a solo uh book excavation based on or inspired by Vladimir Nabokov's Pale Fire, one of my favorite books.
I've also heard it referred to as the House of Leaves RPG.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's out there. It's a wild one.
Ace is somebody we've gotten to collaborate with a lot, and I do love that Spine has just taken off because they are a great designer who a lot of their early games just kind of I think skip people's notice. Spine is very distinctive and I think in a really great voice, so people should absolutely go check it out. Again, Friday, spend money tomorrow buying a cool game. Friday, go do that. Like shut everything down. Don't spend money. Spend time with loved ones. Spend time by yourself. Survive and do one more thing in 2026.
Play some Elden Ring.
Play some Elden Ring where you won't survive probably.
Yeah, don't.
You will do with everything. All right. I don't remember if we came up with a good closing last time. But you can go to ttrpg.link/make-moves-jam to submit your own moves. Check out things we have there. We also have a short little zine by Aaron that's absolutely free that is linked there also, too. If you want a physical copy, you can go pick it up on the site, but not on Friday. We've got some cool stuff coming up for Zine Month. A lot of things happening next month, but we will be very off this weekend as we try to support that general strikeout. And until next time, show me your moves.
Expect the worst.
Expect the no. Bye, everybody.